Hey, rock stars! It's the coach here. Hope you guys are doing great because I've got a guy called James Can. James Can, the man with the plan. This guy is a personal coach, professional bodybuilder, specifically focuses with working with champion CEOs, with ourselves, with some of our clients. And one of the things that you don't talk enough about is the stuff in between our ears, our mindset. So here's what we're going to be touching on. We're going to touch on things that, I look at conversations or problems and how they're talked about. There's the known and spoken problems, okay? There's the known and unspoken problems. You've heard people say, hey, nobody wants to talk about the elephant in the room. And then there's the unknown, unspoken problems. We're going to be covering off all of these different levels with the following topics. We're going to talk about, what is the mindset of a champion CEO. We need to know what that mindset is so that we can work towards it, so we can get our brains to become a champion CEO mindset. But first of all, we've got to know what the heck that is. We're going to talk about the mindset that's needed, okay, to build an A-team. And that mindset actually starts with you. It's so critical that your mind is in the right place. If it's not, you're probably dealing with chaos. You're probably dealing with people leaving you. You're probably dealing with not being attractive enough that, you've got quality tradespeople and skilled people coming to your door. So we got to get our mindset right first. Okay. We will see you guys on the flip side. You owe it to yourself. It's only going to be 30 minutes maximum. Might be less than that, but it's 30 minutes of really getting your mind in the right place so you can go to the right place and become the person that, you're meant to become. You become the best that you can be, whatever that is for you.
Until right now, this very moment, contractors have always been on their own, not as tradespeople, but being alone and knowing how to take their business to the next level. They call us working class. They call us blue collar. They say that we don't have the smarts to become the business owner that we're meant to be. That is such bullshit. You have the ability. You're more than any of that. The question really is, where do you get the insights that you need specific to contracting to systemize your business so you can get your profits to pay for your freedom? I'm Andrew Houston. I'm going to show you how to make more profits, how to get more control, how to get more freedom in the simplest, quickest way possible without any of that bullshit. Welcome to the No Bullshit Podcast for Contractors. Listen up, level up, and if you learn something, like the video, subscribe to the channel, change your business, change your life.
All right, everybody, welcome to another No Bullshit Podcast for Contractors. I'm very excited to bring into the mix of today's No Bullshit Podcast a friend of mine, person I've been working with. It's helped me in a lot of different ways. Definitely a lot of help with what's in between these two ears. And so I'm gonna get my man. I've got two amazing people on here, and I'm going to get these guys to introduce themselves and just tell you guys. I got James, I think, would be on the right of me. I got Liam on the left of me, both very close and near and dear to my heart as friends. And on the professional front, we're going to be talking about mindset. We're going to be talking about, how if you don't get this right, it's like one of the biggest fucking anchors you can have to hold you back. And if you do get it right, it's probably one of the biggest amplifiers that you can have behind you to, leap you forward. So without further ado, James, my man, welcome, brother.
Thanks for having me on, guys.
Yeah, for sure. You look a little bit tired. What's going on? A different time zone or something?
Oh, mate, we're on at 7 a.m. here, so I haven't had time for all my meditation, all my beach stuff. And no, I'm good, dude. I'm ready to rock and roll.
Tell everybody where you're located, what you do, and what are you all about, brother?
Okay, so I'm located in Australia, up the northern part in a place called Noosa, a beautiful, beautiful little beach town. We just moved up here and I absolutely love it. In terms of like what I do, I help guys perform at their peak and just be on their A game 24/7, 365. It started off with me in, I originally wanted to go pro in rugby. And I wanted to play at a pretty high level there. I busted both of my knees up, and as you guys know, busting both your knees in professional sports doesn't go terribly well. And so that was over. And then I thought, okay, well, if I can't play rugby, what can I do? And I was like, I can get big. Like, I can get really jacked. And so that's when I went into bodybuilding and did that on a professional level. And, getting jacked was like my solution for most problems in life. And it got me so far, and it did quite well. But there came a time where I just wasn't performing. I wasn't feeling the way that I wanted to. And that led me down the performance route. I went through a battle with a heap of like personal stuff. I had anxiety, depression, bipolar. I had IBS. I've had a heap of like personal health issues. And that's led me even further and further down this thing where I've arrived at where we are now, where I work with awesome human beings like you guys and make it so that you are totally like on the ball all the time. You're able to lead your companies. I mean, even within my own experience, we've got a company. We have, we're up to 23 employees now, I think it is. And plus also a heap of guys who go in as well. And one of the things that I noticed even with myself is that if I'm lacking or if I'm slacking off in any way, if I'm not mentally well up here, the business goes down. But when I'm mentally on my A game and I'm feeling incredible, then the business just goes astronomically up. I mean, we're doing 30% month-on-month growth at the moment, which is really, really cool. And that's correlated with me being on my A game. And so that's really what I teach now and what my whole organization is about. It's about how do we make it so that guys and girls absolutely dominate in their personal lives, in their health, and then in their business all at the same time.
Love it, man. Love it. And Mr. Morin, tell us a little bit about you. What are you all about, my man? What's your role of prop for contractors?
So Swiss Army knife right now, but mainly my responsibility is growing, obviously, the revenue and marketing side of the business. So making sure, we're growing as a company, sales, marketing, lead flow, manage a lot of the content creation, that kind of stuff. And yeah, I think right now, so just like so everybody knows, like I kind of did a lot of phone sales for a lot of my life and in person. And now finally I've kind of moved out of being like in the sales operator kind of mode and now going into the sales, team building kind of sales growth mode. So it's a bit of a shift, but yeah, what gets me up in the morning is growing people, growing the team, growing the business, and just fucking helping a lot of people, which is what we're all about at Prop for Contractors.
Love it. That is what we're all about, right? We're helping contractors get the profits, pay for the freedom, help them go from chaos to control, and really net is getting them to stop working so hard for so fucking little, sometimes less than little, sometimes nothing, right? So
I think every coaching company, essentially, their students, clients, members, whatever, essentially are all working too hard for too little. Like, well, I don't think I know a coach who like that isn't their avatar. Like, yeah, every coach I know, no matter what industry they coach, like fundamentally, it's like the same thing. It's just people are working too hard for too little, and they're stressed the fuck out, and they have a ton of fucking health problems. Right, James? Mm-hmm. Like, doesn't really matter. Yeah. Like, you can hair salons, you can coach contractors, restaurants, right? Like, we know all the coaches for all the industries, and I guarantee if we sat down all of our clients together, they all have roughly the same problems.
Yeah, you know what the common denominator is? Starts with the letter H. Human, or really, they're humans, right? That's what we are. We're humans, right? We deal with this thing, where we think that putting in more time, working harder. I'm going to sacrifice. Okay, I'm going to sacrifice the next 2 years. Everything will be better. I'm going to go work out. I'm going to hit the plates. I'm going to become, She-Ra or He-Man or something. And the reality is that it doesn't solve the problem. So let's get down to the root of, for the listeners. I want you guys to realize, if you're first time listening to this, when I say it's a no bullshit podcast, I really mean that. I'm not going to let you guys walk away with nothing. For the amount of time that we have, I want you guys to walk away with tangible things that are going to, either A, resonate with you, tangible things that you can actually take and apply and make your life better. Pretty simple, right?
Can we touch on what you were saying just before quickly, Andrew? Because I love what you said is the fact that we think that we're going to, by working harder and harder for longer and longer, is going to give us exponential results. And it's so true, dude. I love that you said that, because most people believe that like to their core. And if we look at like, where does this belief actually come from? Like, why is it that we have this mindset? Because if you think about it, right, for a lot of people, working harder and harder for longer is actually making business worse, right? That's the actual evidence of it. So where does this belief actually come from? It comes from the fact that in order to start a business, you need to have that work ethic in the first place. Because if you don't have that work ethic, you never get it started. But that work ethic only gets you so far. That work ethic's like the competitive advantage that you have in business over other people, which allows you to get from, 0 to 6 figures type thing. And it then gets it up and going. But there's this brilliant expression. We touched on it last week when we caught up, or the week before when we caught up. And so the thing that got you to where you are right now is not the same thing. It's not the same mentality that's going to get you to the next stage. And I bet you guys see this all the time because I do. But the biggest thing is if you can't make that shift out of being the hustler and the grinder into the person who is going to think big picture and is going to think about building and growing the company as opposed to operating it, you will never be able to make that shift into having a business which runs without you and grows organically without you and actually provides you with the freedom that you want so that you can spend the time with your family, with your kids, and do all the stuff that you actually want to achieve in life. I really love that you brought that up, man, because until we make that shift out of being hustlers and grinders, we never actually become a successful business owner.
Yeah, it's interesting. I'm glad you highlighted
also
this.
because humans can't understand exponential growth. Like they don't, positive or negative. Unfortunately, right? Like
what do you
our
mean?
Monkey brain. Humans can't our mind doesn't allow us to visualize exponential function, right? We only think a lot like linear, right? Like the best example I always give to people, which is a great one, which always does people's head in. If you're Canadian, you'll understand this. But for James, I'll make them understand it. So there's a place in Toronto called the Sky Dome, James. It's like our biggest venue. Like it's like if U2 plays in Canada, they're playing the Sky Dome. It's the biggest venue we have. It holds like 100,000 people, right? And if you take a shot glass full of water and you put it in the bottom of the Sky Dome, and you start exponentially increasing the amount of water in the Sky Dome, the point at which the Sky Dome is half full and the point at which the Sky Dome is completely full is only one step function, right? It's only one power higher.
That's right.
Human beings don't understand this because everybody will sit in the dome and be like, a lot of water filling up, interesting. And then all of a sudden, it's like, well, it's only half full. And then it's like all of a sudden everybody's underwater. And the point I'm making with this is that our brains don't also understand the inverse of de-exponential growth, where we're working harder and harder and harder, right? And we're actually getting a negative exponential return on our effort. But we don't understand this because our brains just physically, like as monkeys, we can't do this. It's just unfortunate. That's why we got to have computers.
Yeah, so let's get something tactical here, something that these guys can apply. So you maybe you're driving in your truck. Maybe you're home with the family. Maybe you're supposed to be at the dinner table and you're doing fucking quotes. Maybe you're driving out to a job site, and you're saying, hey, I'm going to be late for the thousandth time. Okay?
Yeah.
Here's what I want. I just want you guys to think about this. And I'm not going to say I have the absolute perfect. What I'm about to tell you is not perfect. But I want you to start thinking differently here. So one of the key ways of thinking differently is asking yourself different questions from a different perspective. So if we say to ourselves, right, from a working hard perspective, right? Oh man, if I could just put in another 10 hours, if I could just, get a whole bunch more work, if I could notice the common theme, that's like more. Now, I'm not saying I don't want you to make more profits. I'm not saying I want you to get more freedom. I'm not saying I don't want you to get more control. I want you to get all that. But if we don't start asking the right questions, we're not going to shift the way that we think. So imagine if you start asking yourself a little bit of a different question. And you might think this is a little bit of a bullshit question, but let's get a shift. How can I get this business to be as profitable as possible, doing the least amount as possible? Not as much as possible, but the least amount. I mean, James, what would be a question that you would get them to think about to get a shift in how they're looking at things? What would be, or different,
Efficiency is the first thing. It's like how efficient and how effective, like no bullshit. And this is the thing too. We always love to think that we're efficient. We always love to think we're totally efficient. I mean, the best way I have of putting it is like before you have a kid, you think that you're super busy, right? You think that you got lots going on. Then you have a kid and then you're like, where did I have all that time? You know that feeling, right? I'm about.
That's why I say to Natalia all the time. I'm like, what did we do before this kid? Like, what the fuck was?
What do we do with all that spare time?
What do we do?
There was so much time, right? And that just shows there how grossly inefficient we are in a nutshell.
It does.
And there are so many times that we can actually go and improve our efficiency. Now, there are going to be two types of people who react to this. One of them is going to be like, fuck this guy, and he doesn't know what he's talking about, right? And we're going to immediately put up a brick wall, in which case, that's cool. Like, I understand where you're at.
Get off the podcast. Stop listening to it. Stop wasting your time.
Yeah, I wasn't going to be that rash, but yeah, okay, get the fuck off the podcast.
Yeah, exactly.
But then there's the other type of person who'll be like, like, that's really interesting. How can I be more efficient, more effective? And then this stems back to another thing, which is growth mindset. One of the things that I was taught by one of my early mentors was, don't look and say, like, I used to have a real problem with thinking that I was doing really well. So I was like 20 years of age. I was making like 500 grand a year at this stage, I think it was. And for a 20-year-old, like, I thought I was doing like super well. And I thought that I was like the best, and I thought I was absolutely dominating because I was making $500,000 a year. And like, that's pretty cool money. That's nice and all. But if I had the growth mindset at that stage, by this stage, I would have had a business that would be on, like, you know, using the exponential theory, I'd be at like $100 million per year right now if I took the opportunities that I had back then. But I didn't, because I had a fixed mindset, and I thought that I had it all figured out, and I didn't think of ways where I could be better. I thought, I'm making $500,000 a year. I'm driving around in a convertible. I've already bought a house, already done all this sort of stuff, instead of thinking, how can I do it better? And so if we use this growth mindset of thinking, how can we always improve? And then we apply that to our efficiency, we'll dramatically amplify how well we work. And that's where we can get synergistic growth. And synergistic, I won't go into too many more different theories. I don't want to, throw out too much crap, but if we can look at how we can make every single unit of energy more effective, every single thing that we do more effective, so that instead of getting 1 + 1 = 2, we get 1 + 1 = 3, and we can amplify and maximize how well we work. That is the best way to increase profitability, scalability without burnout, while maintaining freedom or increasing freedom and being able to do the things that we love.
Do you have an example of that? I got one.
Totally.
Do you got one?
Yeah, first of all, sleep, right? Most people sleep atrociously, like really, really terrible.
I'm waving my hand, everybody.
Yeah,
James looks at my sleep, and he's like, okay, this guy, is he still alive? Okay.
Mind you, credit to you. You are statistically double what you were before. So I'll give you credit on that one, like statistically way better. But yeah, sleep is a big thing, really, really big thing. If you look at sleep and society's viewpoint towards sleep, our view of sleep and the way we judge it, we think that it's just this useless thing that we do at night, right? Which is a pain in the ass because it makes us stop working. Really what sleep is a super important thing, but if we look at it from a business sense, sleep is the productivity amplifier, right? If you sleep better and you sleep more to an extent, your productivity will shoot through the roof. Even Elon Musk was talking about sleeping any less than 6 hours a night, and that dude's like on a different scale. But if he sleeps any less than 6 hours per night, his productivity goes down. Yeah, what do we all try and do? I did this. This is how I burnt out and gave myself anxiety and depression like the first time, was by trying to sleep 4 hours a night, train 6 hours a day, and work the rest. Like, it's stupid. But we all have this terrible mindset, not all of us, but a lot of us have this terrible mindset towards sleep. So what we need to do if we want to amplify our productivity and amplify our effectiveness, we need to make sure that we sleep really well and we get a good amount of sleep in the key areas. We have, roughly speaking, we have light sleep, deep sleep, and REM sleep. So we need to make sure that we have it evenly broken up into those three areas so that our body recovers properly, our mind recovers properly, and we're ready to absolutely dominate for the next day.
Love it, man. Think about it, guys. It's your brain's an engine, right? You get that thing too hot for too long, right? Without it being able to reset and cool down, no matter how expensive, no matter how high performing of an engine it is, you're going to break the fucking engine. Okay. It's not going to be running at its optimal speed and torque and performance if you're not taking care of the engine, right? Liam, what have been some of the things that, you've been working with James for a while now. What have been, maybe if you're open to it, sharing some of the personal things of like where you were at and now where you're at from a mindset perspective and how some of these strategies have helped you.
Well, yeah, I think like, listen, we're always like, we're always a work in progress too. Like there's no end state, right? Like this is not something you just
Well
like fix. It's same with your business. Like you never stop working on your business, right? When you have the mindset of like, oh, I figured it out, like that's probably when you got complacent and your business dies, right? And like how many times don't want to name names. Actually, a funny anecdote. I had a call today with a former client who messaged me and they're like, yeah, like we want to sell our business and maybe pass it on to one of the employees. And I was like, cool. So I was like, let's how are your numbers? I was like, okay. So I'm like, so the year since you're not in our program, your profits are down, your sales are down, seem more stressed out, right? And right when these people left, they're kind of like, yeah, like we got the systems in place, and like we got to get a handle on things. Like we figured it out. Like we just go off on our own. It's like, okay, cool, right? Like that's fine. But then funny, it's like, okay, we want to sell our business, and I'm like, well, hate to break it to you, with that net profit, no one's going to want to buy that business, right? And it's that same mindset of like, oh, I figured it out, right? And I'm not trying to be rude or cocky, but I think for the vast majority of like personal trainers, coaches, teachers, whatever, anybody in that, like whatever, we'll just lump it in like the teaching mentorship world, right? Like whenever a student leaves and they're like, yeah, I got it figured out. I think like 99.9% of the time, James, maybe correct me, if you were to check in on those students, they're usually in a worse place than when they left.
Totally agree.
Right?
Unfortunately.
So Liam, right? just a second. So everybody listens into this podcast. If this is your first time,
and this is not a pitch, right? Like that you need to get coaching.
Yeah,
you need to.
I love it.
It's more of like it's like James was saying. It's not you stop having a growth mindset, right?
Mm-hmm. But you should get coaching. How many coaches do you guys have?
You should buy all of our coaching programs on this call. We'll have all the links. We'll have the infomercial, and if you buy this. And then Matt will swoop in and he'll sell something else at the end and put it on a big combo, and Jeremy will throw a ribbon on it. But yeah, no.
Okay, so hold the phone. So Liam, you don't get off that easy, brother. Right? Yeah, you get the wrong guy. You get the wrong guy. You get the wrong guy that's on this call. Yeah. So, what have been some of the changes that you've made? What have been some of the things, the impact specifically to Liam Morin, not Ted, Fred, and Harold?
You didn't let me. Anyways, I had a tangent, but let me finish.
Go for it.
I used to talk really, really, really fast all the time. If anyone knows me, all the time. I don't do that as much anymore. So part of that was me learning to just kind of slow down, calm down a little bit. I used to not sleep. Yeah, definitely sleep was a thing. I didn't used to sleep as well, or as consistently. Now the baby obviously throws a whole wrench into the cards. Mm-hmm. I had a really hard time being present with not only just my partner, but with other people. And I think one of the other big things is I never really I adopted the mindset a lot of the time of like the best way to get out of all of these problems is just to work harder, right? Is just to like constantly bite down on the mouth guard and walk forward. And I had to push myself to a point where like it was very painfully obvious that it just doesn't work. And I think for everybody has to have that experience of being like, okay, like I've 100% learned the lesson that I can't do that anymore. It's just not the solution, right? Like you have to learn that painful lesson. It's unavoidable. And then I think also just a couple of things like the small hacks, like fucking ordering prepared meals. I don't have to cook my lunch anymore. It like seems like such a like inane thing, but then when you start doing it, you're like, oh yeah, this saves me a whole bunch of time and a whole bunch of effort and energy, and I eat better and it's just less stress. Like there's all these things that you learn where you're like, oh, and it goes back to like the growth mindset and the value of your time. You're like, what is my time worth? What's important to me, right? And what am I going to do to change the parameters of my life so that I can do more of that?
Awesome. So look, everybody listening in, there's a pretty high chance you're going fast. And by the way, very similar to Liam, I would talk fast, but I was also scattered. Hey, James, all over the place, man.
No.
Like a bouncing ball. Right?
No.
Yeah, exactly. People talk about ADHD, they talk about all these different things, but the reality is that in order to get focus, James, you taught me this, you've gotta have a way to slow down. You have to have a way to hit sort of the reset button on the brain. And one of the things that I so sharing with everybody is, and I've become to love it, is meditating. Okay, so I meditate every day. I just started, just to let you know, James, meditating just before I go to bed, just in the last like 2 sleeps, and that helps tremendously for me. Because look, as entrepreneurs, we're jacked. We're so passionate.
We're junkies.
Yeah, we are junkies, man. We're adrenaline junkies. We're very passionate. What's that?
That's when I met James. I was like full junkie mode.
Yeah, it's a high. It's correct. Yeah. Is that right, James? Yeah. Tell us. Just spend maybe
explain
a minute on the chemical side, because I do want to talk about something that's really, really important in just a second. But tell us a little bit about on the chemical side. What goes on?
The chemical side, in terms of why we're junkies and addicted to like work and whatnot. Yeah, cool. So there are 3 states that we look at. Okay. Actually, you know what? I'm going to break it down into 2. We have the present state, where we're here and now, and we're actively engaged in every single thing that we're doing here and now. And we have a certain set of neurotransmitters which operate in that here and now, where we're totally present in this moment, right? The here and now is like being involved in a conversation. So like as we're here, I mean, have you ever been in a conversation with someone before who is just so intently listening that there could be a bomb going off outside and they would still be listening to you? Like it's just like that level of intensity in conversation. And it's really nice because you actually feel heard, right? That's here and now. When we have the other end of the spectrum is when we're thinking always about the future or about the past, right? And we're looking for things outside of this present moment. And this one is more of a dopamine-driven thing. So when you guys might have had this before. Have you ever had an argument with someone and you go away from it and you're running that argument through your head and thinking, I should have said this, I should have said that, that would have got in, I would have got in there if I did this and this and this. Stupid thoughts, right? Because it's not going to change the fact. Like the past has already happened, it's gone, let go of it. But we keep that, like holding on to that. But we feel good when we do that. And we feel good when we're running that through our mind. We almost get a little bit G'd up. And then the other side of that is like looking forwards to the future and moving in front and looking at all the stuff that we're going to build. I'm going to do this and this and this and this and this. And we get really excited and really amped up and pumped up about these things that we're going to do in the future. So that's dopamine talking right there. Dopamine's a really amazing neurotransmitter, right? Really amazing brain chemical. It's the reason why we are motivated. It is the molecule of motivation. It is the thing that allows us and gets us going. We as business owners really like dopamine, hence why we are willing to work really, really hard in order to achieve a reward, because we're highly motivated human beings. At the same time, it's why we're so prone to addiction. I mean, geez, we have helped so many business owners kick $10,000 a month cocaine habits. Like we've lost count now. How many business owners have massive cocaine habits, right? Massive alcohol habits, pornography, sleeping around, all these things, because dopamine is involved in all of those processes. And it's when we start looking into that and we start understanding how dopamine works and what effect it has on us that we can start to fix a lot of these problems that we have. So the reason why we often start to crave work is because we're craving dopamine. And the solution to it is to become present. If you want to be more efficient, more effective, and better, I mean, I'll give you another example. Have you ever noticed if you're somebody who does think like constantly living in the future, and you're always thinking about the next thing that you've got to do, have you ever noticed that thing that you've been thinking about doing or you've been thinking about achieving, making $1 million a year, when you get there, you've already moved on to the next goal. Like you don't even recognize that goal.
Oh my God. You're in my head again.
Yeah, you're on to the next one. It's funny, isn't it? Like if we actually take a step back, we zoom out 40,000 feet and look down from us.
We suck at celebrating.
We suck at celebrating. We don't actually live in the now at all. It's always on to the next thing. At Christmas, you're thinking about what you're going to do on Boxing Day. On Boxing Day, you're thinking about, okay, well, I've got to get this and this and this ready for the New Year's. You're always thinking about this birthday party you've got coming up or this trip you've got coming up. You're thinking about it. But then when you're on the trip, you're thinking about work or something else. There's never a time where we're actually here and now. And that's because dopamine's got us by the balls.
Wow, dude, that seriously. And for those listening in, you might have been having some aha moments of like, what James is saying totally has resonated with me. And now it's starting to make sense. I mean, guys, understand that awareness is one of the keys to solving a problem, right? And if you weren't aware of this, like I wasn't aware of it, then you're not going to be able to do the necessary things to solve some of these problems, right? So a lot of times, let's take some more meds, let's take some more of this, more of that. Maybe it is alcohol, maybe it's Coke or whatever. And then, oh yeah, that stuff, actually definitely cocaine will give you some focus. Yeah, also give you some other problems, right? So, we've got, there's ways to get away from that addiction. And, for me, one of the biggest things that's worked for me is when I'm meditating, man, that's such a fucking peaceful place. Like, it really is amazing. I'm not saying that's the only place. Liam, what's one of the places for you that allows you to be, or one of the things that you do now that allows you to be more present?
Look, one of the things that's always for me been a place where and it's funny because we talked about this the other day, James, at the time dilation thing, where when I'm doing like hard training, hard working out stuff, right? Like where I can just completely be present, disconnect. Like James taught me, when you're doing something and you're super present, right? Time moves super, super slowly, right? But when you're always scattered and thinking about the future, right? You're like, there's never enough time, right? It's a bitch. Now there's a whole quantum physics theory and a whole observers theory on this. But when I train really hard, when I get out of the house, go to the gym, I find that's a space where I get super present, super focused, and I'm just doing that one thing and only that one thing. Now, of course, like something, I'm a human, thoughts come into my head, but on a much smaller scale. Hunting definitely would be one. That's a big thing, I think, for both of us, Andrew.
Yeah, I love
That's
it.
a really big one. Yeah.
That's an unbelievable focus. Amazing how you can be sitting in a spot for hours, and whether or not something comes into view or not, you're just so present with nature. And just being in nature in itself is, I think, something that all humans, it's good for us, right?
I tell a lot of people, just you don't have to hunt, you don't have to shoot a gun. Like, if you're not into any of that, whatever, you can be a vegan. But just getting up early and going outside and sitting down and watching the sun come up, that alone, I think, would help a lot of people. Like that experience of getting up like an hour and a half before the sun, going somewhere, sitting down and being super, super quiet and not moving, and watching the sun come up and watching the world come alive, that in and of itself is probably better than most therapies.
Just being there in nature is amazing. I mean, if you look at the science towards that, there are these things called fractals in nature, which are like these little, they're just these things that exist in nature. They're called fractals. That's all we really need to know and go over. But what they do is it's like an image in nature that we see. Yes. Have you ever just looked into nature before? You're like, this is so cool. Like, you sit out in your balcony and you look out on a mountain, or you're in the woods and you're just looking around. You're like, this is actually really nice. I feel really peaceful and really calm, really chilled out. You're camping, hunting, doing whatever you're doing. What it's actually doing, which is fucking awesome, is that it's actually inducing a meditative state in you just by being out in nature. So it actually increases these brain waves, which are called alpha waves, right? And this is like the calming brain wave. It makes you feel relaxed and peaceful. That's why when you go hunting, you come back and you're just super chill. Or you go camping and you're super relaxed, and you sleep really well too. Like when you sleep really, really deep. If we can just spend more time in nature, you don't have to sit down with your, fingers touching like this and then go and cross your legs and and meditate. Like, you don't have to do that. If that's not your jam, I don't mind it. I quite like it. It seems to work for you too, Andrew. But if you can just get outside in nature and just be more present in nature, spend a bit more time there, go and spend a week away and leave your fucking phone at home, right? And just be there with your missus, be there with your man, be there with your kids, or just be there by yourself and be in nature. You will chill out massively and be way more present.
Being out there with your kids, being present, no conversation whatsoever, and the sun is coming up. I'm looking over at him, and he's at peace. He's got a big smile on his face, and we're just out in nature. It's just absolutely amazing, So before we start wrapping things up, I wouldn't mind going a little bit longer than I normally do. Is that okay with you, lads, or what? We good? Okay, so there's something that I won the tables beyond what we've been touching on. Well, it is definitely related, which is this word called worthy, being worthy enough.
Hey Rockstar, I hope you enjoyed that one. And if you did like this one, join our private Facebook group, Profitable Contractors Association. It's one of the biggest communities for contractors with over 10,000 members, where you get the latest insights to help you delegate, dominate, and deliver so you can take your contracting business to a whole nother level.